Your story is waiting for you today. Your story has something new to say. But your story will only come out to play when you're alone. Alone. Alone in a room with invisible people.
The following episode may contain swearing. Alone in a Room with Invisible People is brought to you by hollyswritingclasses.com. Hi, my name is Rebecca Galardo, and I'm the host of Alone in a Room with Invisible People. I am here with author and teacher Holly Lisle, and today's topic is what motivates you to write fiction? And I think today's going to be pretty intense.
I think.
But first, why don't we talk about what we were doing? And I'm going to go first just because mine is really, really short. I have been steadily doing just a little bit every single day, trying to reach about a 500 word count. I haven't been updating anything, probably because I feel a little bit too protective of the writing at the moment. It's just a weird feeling, and I need to at least go on the blog and let everybody know and go into the forums but it's kind of like I'm keeping it with me right now. And that seems safest in my stupid, vulnerable position at the moment, my brain. So you have gotten a lot done this week.
I have. It's been a really good week. I did get the finished write-in revision of The Owner's Tale done. And I was anticipating being able to get the type-in done. That did not happen. But the write-in revision is done, and even now, I was in the shower this morning and suddenly had an idea for a change to make in the ending, and I'm going to have to decide whether I do that or not. But it would be really good with it. I think it's really good now. Oh man. But boy, do I love the way this has come out. It is.
That's awesome.
After you let it sit there and cool for a while, and then you go through and you read it, if you love it, that almost never happens to me that I love it.
You mean before revision?
Yeah, before revision, right. It is usually for me this process of, it ain't bad, but there's a lot of stuff that has to be fixed. In the first 24 pages of this, I didn't change a letter. That's in the write-in revision. First 24 pages, I didn't change anything. That has never happened to me before, ever. And I am so
crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is, and there are whole sections of the story that are even now as is, whole blocks of pages. It was astonishing. And I'm trying to figure out what I did this time that I have never done before, because it is so different. That just never happens to me. So,
well, I mean, it could be just like the accumulation of everything that you've written so far and the motivation inside of writing it that just moved you.
This is the story I have been waiting to tell for the whole first 5 episodes of the series. This ends it.
That could be why.
This is, yeah. This ends the whole story, and it ended it right. And I am just thrilled with it. So I will be so happy to, the Owner's Tale is going to be coming here very shortly as we talk. I also finished Lesson 8 of How to Write a Novel, and that went together really well. And folks are in the process now of writing their novels, and have been since Lesson 6. And it's a lot of fun to watch people having stuff come together for them. I'm so excited. Okay, and then I got my 1,515 words this week of Dead Man's Party done, which is the novel that I am writing for as my demo novel for the How to Write a Novel class, in which I am writing a novel at the same time that I am writing the class. So this is a degree of insanity to which I do not usually aspire. But
And you aspire to levels of insanity quite often, so this one's pretty new.
I do. We are on the forum, on the How to Write a Novel forum right now, calling this playing on hard mode, and I am definitely playing on hard mode this time. But the thing that was big for me this week is that being able to have the write-in revision done of The Owner's Tale, and knowing that I'm going to get the type-in revision done of that, and then the book done, and then the whole 6-book series thing done, frees me up to start researching the Moon and Sun series again, to go through and read the first 2 books, the Ruby Key and the Silver Door, so that I can finally, all these years later, write the Emerald Sun, which is something that my readers have been asking me for years. And I am so excited to finally be on my way to doing this. So that was my week, and it was a pretty good week.
Awesome. Yeah, so you said about researching. We'll have to do a show on researching as well, because that has been requested a number of times.
Oh, yes. And research is, in fact, the rabbit hole down which many of us have fallen and then wandered for years. So, keeping research under control, I think, is what that episode needs to be.
Okay, so let's get to the topic. What motivates you to write fiction?
Okay, first of all, to answer that question, we have to look at what is writing fiction. What is this thing that you think you want to do? And my definition of writing fiction is dancing naked on a rooftop. And I use this definition because A, it's kind of horrifying, and B, it doesn't hit you until you have had something published and read your work through somebody else's eyes, or had somebody else read your work through their own eyes and come back to you and say, oh, well, this sounds kind of like you. Did you ever do this? Or is this some part of your life that you haven't mentioned anywhere? And the answer to that is frequently yes. I don't want to talk about it, but yes.
Yeah.
Because your subconscious mind stores all of this stuff in the back and keeps it in there as just a toy in the toy box, and will throw it out to you in a form you don't recognize. So that there was, and I have an example for this, actually from The Owner's Tale, from when I was 9 years old. And my parents were dorm parents in Alaska, in the Moravian Children's Home. It was about 4 miles north of Kwethluk, Alaska, on the Kuskokwim River. And talk about remote, man. There was electricity when they had the generator on, which was about 10, 12 hours a day. We had wood-burning stoves. We had a honey bucket, which was a bucket that got...
Ew.
Yes. It was a bucket in which to pee and poop that got carried out daily and dumped in a bin downriver. We pumped our water from that same river, and we were not the first place on the river. There were villages above us. So I learned about how you dump Clorox into water to keep from dying from whatever's in the river at the age of...
They still have
9.
honey buckets.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, because everybody is dumping their raw sewage on the ground or directly into the river or whatever, and that's everybody's water supply. In The Owner's Tale, I was writing about this remote location where this world in settled space or this little moon that was purchased by a guy who was using it as a private colony, and he was breeding children for his own use, and I won't go into any more graphic detail than that, but it was horrifying, and the story is told from the point of view of someone who survived this and found out what it was years later. And as I was reading through that in the write-in revision, I all of a sudden realized, holy shit, that's my take on the children's home, which was people were brought in there from the BIA, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is the government office that took Indian and Eskimo kids from their parents because the parents had alcohol problems or whatever. And they had living parents. These were not orphans who were in this place. They were kids who were taken away from their parents and dumped in this facility. And it was that part of my life that came out in this story without me even seeing it until I realized what that was. And I was like, oh my God. And there are a lot of other parts of me in this thing too. And I just didn't even see it coming in. And that is dancing naked on a rooftop. There are pieces of yourself that you don't know you're putting in the story until it's in there. And how do you want to do that? When you are looking at writing fiction, if you are writing true to yourself and your life, if you are telling a story that matters to you, you are going to find yourself sooner or later naked on a rooftop with everybody looking. And do you want to do that?
Yeah, because not everybody's going to like what they see.
No. And no matter what they see, because nobody likes everything and everybody likes something different. So you are guaranteed that there are going to be people who read your book who don't like something that was important to you. It's just going to happen. Okay, so basically that's my take on it. But you are coming at this from a writer too, or from a writer's perspective too. So where are you coming from?
I think it's partially that. I mean, but it's more. I think I'm more motivated by how I wish things happened in life, and I hate that word, wish. But it's still. It's just, maybe it's partially that child of, I don't know. I also don't like the child of abuse or, any terms like that, but because we've all been through bullshit in life.
Yeah.
But mine was very specifically, kind of a bad start. Well, not bad. It was a good start, but when I was 6 or 7, everything just started to kind of go downhill. And so it's a lot of that had me escaping to fantasy, reading everything, watching movies. Mark was more into video games. I liked them, but my favorite memory of video games is chasing Matt around in GoldenEye with the golden gun and pissing him off. He's still to this day pissed off about it. I sent him the golden gun meme. It's just a meme on Facebook that I saw. It says golden gun, the original friendship killer. And he was like, fuck the golden gun. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And nowadays they have things like Morrowind. Morrowind was a great escape into fantasy. And I think a lot of it is I get to live all of these different lives while making the stories matter in a way that matters to me. For instance, female characters. A lot of the books that I've read, the female characters are unrealistic, or they fit that societal pressure that we all have to deal with, because they're not normal, they're not regular, they're these mythical creatures, these perfection in skin that just they don't exist. I mean, even perfect looking babes are not perfect.
Right.
They still, I follow a fitness instructor, Zeus Galite. I love her, and she has a really bad history. She started off in porn, and yeah, but I think it was softcore. It was just like her by herself or something, and then she moved into fitness, and she looks to me perfect. She is gorgeous, but she shares her struggles with the body image and with her past and her divorce and everything. So you can see how realistic she is, how she has her own flaws, and that's something missing in a lot of fiction is realistic characters. Mm-hmm. And good fiction exists out there with realistic characters. I'm not saying it doesn't, but specifically in like the romance genre or the paranormal or the romantic paranormal.
I think instead of the word realistic, I think it would be relatable. is
Yeah.
more.
Okay. Relatable is a better word
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily realistic when you have a chick doing magic or whatever, but it's making these people more relatable is a big thing for me. I have some themes that are important to me as well, and I know that those are parts of dancing on a naked on a rooftop naked, but a lot of it is also I want to create these worlds that don't exist in real life. I want to it's the same reason that for some of my art as well is I have a small sliver of me that believes in Loch Ness, that believes in Nessie. I have a small sliver in me, larger than Nessie, that believes in the chupacabra or Bigfoot. I 100% believe in ghosts, and I believe I have had experiences there. I want to believe in vampires and werewolves. And I know that those are subconscious, that those are werewolves came from our fear of what man can do, and we just had to create this scapegoat. But I want to see that. I want a world where those things exist, as frightening and terrifying as they are. So that is my Fulton Hills books. That's the Glass House books, which are all tied together. And the more serious ones, the actually more realistic books, because I want all of them to have relatable characters. But the ones where there's a bigger theme, I think, would be the romance, without the fantasy, without so much of the magic. The romance, I want there to be these powerful things about what love is, because a lot of what we see in Hollywood, a lot of what we read in novels, it doesn't fit my definition of love.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Well, that segues us very nicely into the next part of what motivates you to write, which is why fiction? What is fiction? And my definition of fiction is creating what could be, what could have been or could be, what should have been or should be, or what should never have been or should never be. That's personal or historical or present or future, that you're coming at that's from some angle where something matters to you, and you want to show it to the world in a way that allows them to relate to it. And that's what you're talking about there with this is,
Yeah.
what I want to write. I want to show the world what livable love is, not some sort of unreachable perfection that doesn't exist. But
Yeah, and that one's so important to me. That one has got to be dancing on a rooftop naked, as well as they should be, because so many women are affected by this. And I know men have certain idealistics too, but it's more in the physical sense. But women, they are told by society, in books and TV and everything, that men have to be chivalrous and never make you feel jealous and be amazing looking, and your perfect marriage, there's never a fight, there's never conflict, the man will support you 100%. And you know what, it's just not realistic.
Right.
It's like you have to fall in love and it's this magical powerful time for the rest of your life. No. And it's just frustrating to see so many. And again, I don't want to put this all on women, because Leaving Wanda Lucia was very clearly about an abusive relationship from the man's from the man was the abuser. So I'm not picking sides, but I'm just saying that for this particular instance, it's like men can't live up to that perfection, just like women can't live up to the physical ideology of society. Right. So it's just those things are so important to me, and definitely motivates me to write.
Right. Exactly. Now that then pulls us to the third question that you ask yourself when you're considering writing fiction, which is, where will you draw from where will you draw your fiction? And will you do this intentionally, or will you do it accidentally? And
Isn't it kind of both?
Kind of both, yeah. It's
Yeah.
because there are going to, as with my little story that I told when we started this episode, there are pieces of yourself that will work their way into the fiction whether you plan it or not. And people close to you and who know you will recognize those pieces and go, eh.
Well, hopefully they won't make that noise.
Well, yes, that would be very rude of them, and hopefully they won't also point their finger at you and laugh out loud. But but there is a certain degree of when you are writing fiction that you are going to be out there. If you are
vulnerable.
yeah, and that's going to stay out there, and so the motivation. Part of that you want, because part of it is this, I have been through some shit. And this is true for almost everybody. I think there are probably a few folks who have lived charmed lives and who have...
Oh, there are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There is, for a lot of us, the motivation for writing fiction is A, I have been through some shit, and B, I have learned something from it. And C, I think I could tell a pretty good story about that, but I don't want to have my butt suit off, so I have to change all of the different pieces of it into things that are completely unrelated to the pieces. And the reason that I was able to tell that story about the Moravian Children's Home is that my parents came back after Alaska and fought very hard to get it shut down. And it was shut down.
Oh, nice.
Yes, one of the better things they did in their lives. I am still very proud of them for that.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, but there is no children's home up there that is going to come after me now for disparaging their reputation. So you can,
Yeah.
at this point, that's a closed book. There are a lot of stories that I don't tell because the principles are still active, and yeah. And we just don't go there because we are not stupid. But you can tell these in fiction. You can change all of the qualities of it. You can change every single thing about what was wrong with the place, or the time, or the people, or the whatever. But keep the truth, the essence of the core of it, that there was abuse going on, that there was something horrible in this place, that people were being separated from family members for spurious reasons, for whatever horrible thing that you know it happened, that you were were in.
Yeah, if people are interested, we'll have to do an episode on how to disguise your experiences.
Yes, that would be, yeah, that's because seriously, this is something that my brain disguised it so well that I didn't even know I was writing that until I read through it and went, oh my God, that's what that was.
Awesome.
Yeah. So your brain will sometimes do this for you, but if it doesn't, there are ways that you can intentionally do this. But you have something in your life that matters to you. You have a philosophy, you have beliefs, you have this core of who you are and what you have lived through and what you have learned from that, or what you someday hope to learn from that, because we are also all works in progress. And we are our own artists. We are turning ourselves into the people that we want to be. And writing fiction, for me, has been really important in that process, where as I write my stories, I am creating these characters who are dealing so much better with the crap that I dealt with than I did. Or I figure out a way to make them deal with it better, to make, and figuring these things out makes it more possible for me to adopt things that my characters have done into my real life and deal with problems that way. And I have become a better person in a lot of ways because of having written fiction and having figured out in fiction, through characters who are smarter than me for reasons I cannot explain, how to deal with problems that I could never figure out how to deal with on my own. It's, you don't want to say that writing fiction is therapy, but...
No, you do. I absolutely believe that I have no problem saying writing fiction is partly therapy.
Yeah.
It's it's so powerful. It's so moving, especially if you're doing something that matters to you, that it can help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I have benefited immensely.
Okay, so writing, like we were saying, it can be therapy. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, well, no, that's fair enough. It is, and I have certainly benefited from that degree of therapy.
So what's the next thing that we're looking at here?
Okay, so when you have looked at your crap, when you have looked at the pain that you have gone through and the uphills and the struggles and have at least acknowledged that some of this is going to end up in your fiction and you are willing to be out there dancing naked on the rooftop to some degree, then you have to say, okay, well, what's in it for you? Because that's the downside, the dancing naked thing. That's the downside. What's the upside for you? Why do you want to do this? And there are a couple of different questions for that, which is, what do you need? What do you fear? What do you love? What do you want? Why do you care? And who are you writing for? And I think if we kind of take those apart one at a time, we can kind of get folks to the points of the motivation that mean something to them, because not everybody writes for the same reason.
Yeah. Okay.
So you are looking to find your motivation, the thing that matters to you as a human being who is willing to put yourself on the page in a way that might be a little dangerous.
And scary.
Yeah, and scary. Yes. Okay, so let's start with the first question, which is, what do you need? And this is, what do you need writing to do for you? And, you go ahead and give your answer, then I'll go ahead and give my answer.
The first thing that came to mind is it needs to give me hope. It needs to give me a sense of magic, because life can be so dark. Life can be so tragic. There's so many bad things that happen. And I personally, when I write, I want, even if there are bad things that happen in the story and tragic things that happen, and I am doing the Holly thing and being mean to my characters in the appropriate amount, just keep getting meaner and meaner. I want there to be a triumph. I am not going to be one of those writers who, even though I love twist endings in short stories, I love killing off people at the end, but having it foreshadowed and having it, most of the time they're people that deserve it. I don't want to have somebody, that's a good person that fought so hard get a bad ending.
Right.
So I guess that I need that triumph over all of the adversity. So it needs to give me hope.
Yeah. So from what you said there, that is also a really important thing for me. I need to see justice, actual justice, not fairness, which is everybody gets the same thing whether they deserve it or not.
Yeah.
It's justice, which is the people who work hard and struggle and fight and do what they need to do to make their lives better and to help other people. I need to see justice, that I need to see that they come out at least okay, maybe better. And they don't, and even in my own books, they don't always, because, reality is that life is generally not just. But when you are creating your own fiction, you can damn well make sure that some of it is.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. That's there. That has been important to me since I was a child.
And you can tell in the very first book you wrote, Fire in the Mist, that there's a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
But I also want the humor. I want the fun, the lightheartedness, the magic.
Yes.
Those are all things that writing needs to give me.
God, yes. It is so important for me to be able to make somebody laugh. And I include, even in really, really dark books, I include a lot of humor. And it is frequently vaguely inappropriate humor.
Yeah, Talon was really funny, even though it was also pretty dark.
Yeah. Oh, my God. There are parts of that thing that I am getting ready to repub that, and Becky's doing the cover art for me. But I was reading through that, and it's like, damn, I went way down the hole on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pulling out of parts of my life that were really dark. And then turning it into something, positive. And part of that, too, is rewriting for me my life,
Yeah.
because you don't get to go back and change things. And even if I could, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have had you guys if
Yeah.
I had changed anything. So, and
That's what I say, is that I wouldn't have had Tony if I went back and did the things that I wish I had done
Right.
and had a spine earlier on in my life.
Right. So, no, life, you make your mistakes. If you're smart, you learn from them. You build on that. And then you go on to, okay, well, what in your fiction is what you fear?
Is that the next question?
That's the next question. Yeah.
Okay, so like, what do I fear? Because
What
you can
are
take that different ways.
Well, okay. When you are writing, how do you put what you fear into your fiction? That's a better way of phrasing that.
Oh man, and I got a good one for the second romance novel, but it's in Glass House. Okay. So I have previously said that I 100% believe in ghosts and believe I've had experiences. So then Mark and I had a shared experience.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am putting that stuff in Glass House. I terrify myself with the different things that I'm putting in there, and I don't know how to describe it, but I let myself get really scared. The one thing that I have not been able to do, because I'm not as experienced as you, I cannot yet bring myself to kill off an animal, because I am super sensitive about animals. I'm insanely sensitive about animals. And even though I constantly joke that I hate my dogs, that they're assholes, that, I obviously, like, if they don't come when I call them from the backyard, like, immediately I freak out, I panic, I think they ran away again or something like that, or they got out. And the other thing is having somebody have lost a spouse. Like, you wrote that really good, Light Through Fog, or what was it? It was the one with the treehouse.
Yeah.
Light Through Fog.
Light Through
Okay.
Fog.
That scares the shit out of me. And I love that they still were able to live their lives together, and in a way. And but that is one thing that I want to start off a romance novel with somebody having lost the love of their life, because I do believe very strongly that even though Tony is perfect for me, I don't think you were only meant to love one person.
No.
I think that, and even saying this, I'm terrified to say it, but this is part of being on a podcast, is being vulnerable, because other people have these fears. I feel like if I lost him, I would never want to be with another person before or again, because he is my best friend, and I've literally only been with 2 people. But I feel like I believe that I have so much love. Like, I can say I literally love other people. It's just in different ways. So I feel like that's something that could happen. I believe in it. I just don't ever want to find out that I am correct.
Yeah.
But that's something that I fear, that I want to write another romance novel with Wanda Lucia, with the world of Wanda Lucia. I actually have a character in there that I want that to have happened to. And I want to show that there is hope after that. I just don't know if I'm to that point yet. But a lot of the things is I fear death intensely, as I think most people do.
Well, that's part of the condition of being human, is that you are able to comprehend that there is an end to this.
Yeah.
That we don't get to do this, that we don't get to sit here in this skin, in this life forever. And that it is going to end, and we don't know how, and we don't know when. And that's tough. That is a tough realization. And that informs a lot of my fiction, too.
Yeah. It's just that then there's the betrayal
Oh
of
yeah.
someone that you love or see, and all of these things stem, I'm sure, from my life, from the, the not knowing what having a father is like.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
That's
I had very few years when it was good, and all I really have is the impact of that kind of betrayal of somebody who I basically thought was like God. I
yes.
him
Well,
and
that's
him and my grandfather, they were like my superheroes.
yes.
So I barely remember that. All I remember is the betrayal. So betrayal is a huge thing in my head that is there, that I'm especially have in parts of Glass House, but I have in the Leaving Wanda Lucia as well.
Right. Yeah. That's well. Yeah. Betrayal. yeah. That was not as big a thing for me as it was for you, although
You had
because
your
I was
experiences
older.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was older.
You have a lot of fond memories.
I have a lot of fond memories to build on that.
I have one. I have two. One, I was in a car and he was being grumpy and I told him to smile and he gave me this stupid big fat shit eating fake smile and it made me giggle. So then he laughed and it was genuine. And then I was swimming in the community, the country club pool with my best friend at the time, Heather. And he picked me up and threw me, and then he picked her up and threw her, and we were giggling, and he just, we kept going. It was just, those were good, that memories, but that's pretty much it. You know,
Yeah.
so the betrayal obviously is a lot bigger.
Right. Right. Well, and you were a lot younger everything
Yeah.
broke. So, yeah, that's when you're
6.
little. Yeah, man, that's a bad age to have things go wrong. So, but that's you are pulling your fiction, and I am pulling my fiction out of things that we love, things that we hate, things that we fear. One of the things for me that I love is creating characters who want something, who want it a lot. Because from the time I was little, there were a number of things that I wanted. I wanted to be a famous artist, and I say that with both famous and artist capitalized. I wanted to be, from the time I was 6 or 7. We were on Spring Street in Janaden-Hutton. I was 6. And I was watching American Bandstand, and there was a girl group on there. And in that instant, I knew that I wanted to have a girl group. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be a famous musician, and a famous musician, all caps. And the name of my band was going to be the Steppin' Ponies.
Oh
And
my God.
yes, well, back then, girls were wearing mini skirts and go-go boots and doing little steps together and the little dances. And, this was when the Supremes were big. And, a number of other, this was when the Monkees were just, becoming a thing, and the Beatles
Oh,
had
God.
just been a thing. And yeah, or were a thing. Might have even still been a thing back then. Yeah. But this was this was my passion and my hunger. And I have, from the time I was a little kid, there were things that I really wanted, and I just didn't understand when I was little that you had to earn them.
Perfectly normal.
Yeah, right, because you think if you just want something, it'll happen. By the time I was 24, there was something I really wanted, and I had learned that if you really want something, you got to work your ass off to get it. And that is now a part of my fiction, is people who really want something. Cadence Drake, she wanted to own her own spaceship.
I think you need to tell that story, though.
What?
Why you wanted to be a writer so badly.
Oh, well, God, yeah. My motivation for being a writer was not to write. My motivation for being a writer was that I saw that as a way that I could stay home and be a full-time mom for my kids while still making enough money to pay my end of the bills. And this was when I was married and thought my marriage was okay. Married the first time and thought my marriage was okay. And at the age of 24, I had Becky, and she was tiny, and I was pregnant with Mark. And I knew that I wanted to be able to be home with my kids. And I thought, well, if I just write a romance novel and sell it, then I just, I'll write it and they'll buy it. And then I can stay home with my kids. And I didn't understand the process of writing, but I was really motivated. And in spite of the fact that that first book did not sell, I kept writing because I really, truly wanted to be able to stay home and be a full-time mom for my kids when they were little. And I didn't actually make it until they were already in school. But I did make it. It took a long time. It was really hard work. But my motivation was to find a genre that I liked and write in that, because I discovered that I was not motivated to write romance. I was passionate about science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction especially, because that was what I read starting at the age of 9, when I found it when we were living at that children's home in Alaska, and there was no TV. There was nothing to do, except there were a bunch of these books from the previous dorm parents that they had left behind, a bunch of these YAs. And I met a number of major science fiction writers. And they weren't even all YAs. I read a lot of stuff that was totally inappropriate for a kid my age, but it was awesome. And that was what I discovered, that, well, okay, if I can write science fiction and fantasy because I love it and I can get good enough at it, I'll do that and stay home with my kids. And that actually worked. It just took a really long time and was a hell of a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But that was my motivation.
Part of the reason why you wanted to stay at home so badly with us, there was another story behind that.
Yeah, there was. I have a horror story, and I am going to leave out all identifying details, including the detail of what happened, because I don't want I was working as an RN at the time. I was a hospital supervisor. It happened in an emergency room, and there were these two kids that were about 4 years older than mine. Mine were, I think, 2 and 4 at the time. These kids were, well, they were maybe a little older than that. I think they were 8 and 10. And they were a brother and sister, same age spread as my two kids, little blonde-haired kids, and they were injured while out playing, devastatingly, horrifically injured. And like I said, I can't give details here because this is medical shit. And they came into the emergency room, and I was the nursing supervisor. And I got everybody in there. I had the doctors coming in. We had everyone standing by. We were ready, and the kids came in, and we got extra doctors in, as I was one of the people who was most. There was a really small hospital, and you got to realize that where we were living, there would be like maybe 3 nurses or one nurse and a nursing assistant in the ER, along with one doctor who was generally floating, who was in from the Army or the Air Force or whatever, who would be working the weekend. And then there was whoever you could call in from home because it was the weekend and they were all out playing golf or with their families or whatever. And then there was you and people who might have the skills that you had to run these codes. And both of them were being bagged on their way in. That they were both getting CPR. Yeah, this is tough. And I got everybody in there. I got our pediatrician in. I got the doctors in. We had full teams for both of these people, for both of these kids. And we ran those codes for over an hour. And neither kid made it. So then I looked at the pediatrician and I said, okay, once we'd called it, and we stood back there and we cried. I mean, everybody, the doctors, the nurses, the technicians, everybody, we were just standing there in tears. And the doctor was getting ready to go out and tell the family, and I said, well, I'll go out with you so you don't have to go out alone. He said, thanks. And we went out and we told the two parents who were divorced, who these two kids were all they had. They didn't have any more kids. They didn't have each other. And they had this devastating thing and lost their entire world right then, right there. And at that moment, I knew that I needed to find a way to be home with my kids. And I didn't know how much I needed it until Mark came to me when he was 9, after his dad and I had divorced, and told me what his dad was doing to him. And it was at that moment, and at that time I was writing full time. I had made it by that point, and that was what made it possible for me to be there enough that he was able to tell me that I wasn't gone working at a hospital all the time. And
because if you were gone all the time, he might not have felt like you could protect him too.
Right.
So it might never have come out.
Right. And the fact that I was home all the time changed everything, because the kids came straight to me. We went to the police. And then we went to a lawyer, and the kids came to me and stayed with me permanently. Social services investigated, but the kids, that was it. That was it from that point on. They did not see their father until they were adults. And then it was only very, very briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, it was our choice. And
right. At that point, it was your choice, and you needed you needed that closure. So that was.
But we've. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, so we don't need to go into that.
Yeah, but that was some. Like I said, we have been through some shit.
Yeah, and it continued for many, 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 many years.
My God, didn't it though? Oh,
yeah.
So, but that was my motivation to write, was to be home with my kids, and it turned out that was I think, life-saving thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I decided to do that, and that I worked so hard to do that, and that it gave my kids. There is still shit you guys have to get through, but because of that, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yep, it could have been way, way, way worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what he was doing to Mark. I just knew my life was hell. But if it's your hero, then you think it's just stuff you're doing wrong, which is something that I also want to have in books.
Right.
But yeah, so what's the next question?
Okay. Yeah. What do you want? Okay. Why do you care? Because that was kind of what do you want, which is, why do you want to do this very difficult thing, which is write fiction and get it out there? So then after that, why do you care?
Why do you care about what?
What do you want to put into your fiction that you want to mean something to somebody else? Why do you? This is a hard question. Why do you?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It is. Why do you care for me now? Is that I want to leave something behind. I know that I am temporary, and part of what I meditate on when I meditate, and I do meditate. For me, it's just breathe in, breathe out. There's no religious significance to it. No philosophical thing. It is just trying to clear my mind, trying to step away from the chatter of the brain when it is constantly telling you the things that you should.
Yes, and
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. I recommended this book to Holly, and she bought it and she loved it, and I'm going to recommend it to literally everyone else out there. Mm-hmm. It's called 10% Happier. It's by Dan Harris. Now, I have been meditating for a long time, because of yoga, because of Buddhism, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. When I read 10% Happier, it changed a lot of my perspective on meditation as well, because I was doing it a different way. If you deal with the monkey mind, which is what the Buddha called the brain, just consistently, if you have a lot of stress, if you have a lot of depression, because meditation has helped with that. Meditation is for everybody. And there is a science behind it that shows you that your brain changes when you meditate.
Yes, for the
and
better.
that it stays that way. Yeah, it's like building muscles.
Yeah.
It's like eating healthy foods, losing weight. There is scientific evidence that proves that meditation changes your brain. So please, if you have a couple of bucks, go buy 10% Happier. I bought his second book. I haven't read it yet. I haven't had the time.
I just bought
so
it
I
today.
can't recommend that. Did you really?
Yes,
Awesome.
I did just today.
Yeah.
I used some of my birthday money for that.
Yeah, and Mom was against it at first, but I told her, Dan Harris, he's got a great sense of humor. He is a freaking sardonic, self-deprecating. He's funny as hell.
He's a smart ass, and I like that in a person.
Yes. So definitely
Yeah.
check it out if you want. But go ahead.
I have,
Sorry.
well, yeah. I mean, I have been in my own way meditating for years. I even have an article on it on my website. But I liked his take. I liked his way of going at it, which is actually way better than mine. And I love walking meditation, which I had never even considered. And that beats the shit out of sitting meditation, if you ask me. I'm a fidgety person.
Yeah, and that's the title of his next book is How to Meditate for Fidgety Skeptics. so this is why, and he says he's fidgety and everything, so I knew it was perfect for you and me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were saying...
Getting back to the fiction, getting back to why I cared. There is just...
You want to leave something behind,
I want to leave,
said.
yeah. We don't last forever. But there are things that we discover because every single one of us builds our own brain. And you don't think about this. You don't think that your experience is unique, not just now, but forever. There is nobody ever in the past who thought the same thoughts that you did, experienced the same experiences you did. We cannot get inside each other's heads. So we are always alone. That we are inside of our heads, we are always completely alone, but we can communicate with each other. We can touch each other's lives. We can make a difference by showing what it's like to be alone in our heads, but by presenting our invisible people and letting them live through things that we have lived through and telling stories that matter to us and putting those in front of people and letting those people discover common ground where some aspect of something that you wrote in the fiction, in your story, with your character, with some piece of shit that you had to get through just to get to the next day, that somebody can find something in that they can take with them, and that what you do now can last. And for me, Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, changed my life. He had lost the love of his life that he had been married to for ages, and he had lost his daughter Susie, and he was alone in the world at last. And he wrote these articles to God, holding God accountable for having taken everything he loved from him. And they are furious essays, and they are deep and passionate. And I read them when I was 17. And I was already an atheist. I have drifted between being an atheist and being agnostic, where I was just, willing to give some, but I don't believe. But I read what he wrote there, and I saw how his view of what God was, and I think he might have been an atheist too. I don't know if I just said that or not. I'm kind of losing my point here. But he changed me. He gave me a way of looking at life and death and what we mean to each other that spoke to me across his death that was like 80 to 100 years before I was born, that spoke to me in a language that meant something to me right then, that told me, well, when you have someone, you hang on to that person. You spend your time with them. You be with them as much as you can. You don't take for granted that you are going to have these people. And he made me a lot deeper person just through those articles, those essays that he wrote. He made life mean more to me, because that was my first real clear vision of what death was, because I'd never, at that point, all of my relatives were alive. Everybody I had ever known was alive. I had never known, oh, well, I did. One of the girls that I went to junior high with had been killed in a car accident a year or two before. It was just crushing, because she was a friend. I had taken my horse over at her house, and she went. I took her out riding through with me. I won't give her last name, but her first name was Janine, and it broke my heart. I guess I was 17 at the time, because we had been in 7th grade together, and we had sat next to each other in gym, but I hadn't internalized that. I hadn't thought, well, this is life. This is all of life. Everything you love, everyone you love will someday die.
Yeah.
And that was a new thing for me, man. And it was very hard to think about, and it changed me. And I am so grateful that it changed me, because it meant that I was not willing to take my kids for granted when they were little. And it meant that I was not willing to just, to just take life lightly. And it gave me something to write about.
Yeah.
That we mean something to each other, and that we can mean something to each other, and leave something behind that matters even when we're gone. And that, for me, that I am not writing just for myself, but I am writing from myself what mattered to me, and what I have to bring to this, that is so that has made my life good in spite of all the crap. I have a really good life. I have people I love and I talk to and who matter to me, you and both of your brothers and Matt. And I have people that I get to talk to who love what I love on the forums. And all of that is stuff that I wouldn't have had without writing fiction. So,
Yeah.
Why do you care goes deeper than, well, why do I care about this story? It's, why do I care about my life? And what do I want my life to be? And what do I want to leave behind? Because I won't be here forever. So what do I want to leave for someone else?
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, you covered so much in there that the only thing that I can add, because a lot of that is stuff that I want and I care about too. I want to bring magic into people's lives. I want to bring mystery into people's lives. And this is part of so I have 2 different levels with the art. I want to pay tribute to things that matter to people. And that's why I've done a lot of portraits of people that have died, or pets that have died, because those things matter to people, and being able to use my skills to bring a part of them that they will always have matters. And I think everything that I want to create is kind of a way of paying tribute to it, like doing the cover for Talon. I love Talon. I love all of your books. And if I can do anything to be a part of them, then I want to do that. So that's from the art and from the writing. I just want to bring magic and hope into people's lives. like in mystery, because I there is a mystery to ghosts. There is a mystery to cryptids. There is this neat kind of other world, and the idea of that existing is playful and fun and spooky and magical. And I love the worlds of Fulton Hills and Standing River, because there's so much potential for magic and discovery and adventure. And while there are going to be serious themes in these books, I want those to be important, but I want them to be a part of it, instead of like the entire point of it. When you read something like The Fountainhead, it's very clear that Ayn Rand had her themes as the entire point of those books, and anthem. So she was kind of like, okay, so serial killers, they have things that are called missionary killers. So she was a missionary writer. She had,
Yes.
she had her philosophies, and well, her philosophy that was built by her books and her writings. But
she was writing to save the world.
Yeah.
That was her objective. And it was very clearly stated, and she just flat out said, this is what I'm doing. I am writing to save the world.
Yep. And that's that. When I was 22 or 21 is when I started reading The Fountainhead, and it just blew me away, and it changed a lot in my mindset, that because I was always a people pleaser, and the more I studied her stuff, and also studied Buddhism, I realized that I need to do things for me. And it's ironic that Buddhism taught me that, because a lot of people see it as being fully altruistic, but that's bullshit. If you read about Buddhism, it's about you. And also making the world a better place by being a better person.
Yeah. Because the only person you can change ethically is yourself.
Yep.
You try to force somebody else to change, you have instantly become a bad person.
Yes. Trying to force your beliefs on anybody else is a bad thing. But yeah, and that's there are important themes in these books, but I just love mystery and intrigue, and I love reading suspense novels. I love all that stuff, but it's not me. I want that magic. I want there to be a werewolf pack. I want there to be, I have this tribe of Native Americans that I'm creating just for Fulton Hills, that have lived in that area the entire time, and they still do their magic. They still have their area, and they still live with their customs, and they aren't affected too much by, I don't, the newer lifestyle that there is around here. They accept certain parts of it, but, and I don't know, it's just, there's so much that I love that I want to bring into this. So everything you said, plus, that, which I'm sure you also want to bring fun and levity and
oh yeah, my
adventure.
My objective with almost every book I write is to have, if somebody is reading on a screen, to have them have to wipe off the screen at least once because they laughed so hard and unexpectedly. And and humor is born of pain. The very best comedians use their own lives and all of the awfulness that they had to live through, and they find a way to twist it around to make it funny. And so
John Caparulo is really good at that.
Yes, but the people who were not popular in school and who were not the athletes and the stars are the ones who can stand up and tell you about their lives in ways that make you laugh your ass off until you have tears running down your cheeks. And I am not that funny, but there are times when when I was much more regular with my blog, where I would just put stuff up there because I knew it was twisted enough to make people laugh. And I would get people saying, I can never drink coffee while reading your blog because I have to clean my screen afterwards. I was like, yes, that's what I'm. And I aim for that in my books. I aim for, in spite of the fact that I write about some really dark stuff, I always try to find ways to make people laugh in there. And generally at things that they don't expect. That they.
I remember laughing a lot during Sympathy for the Devil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a very smart ass book. But see, and that too, that is a book about God, written by an atheist. But it is God the way God could be if all of the things that I had been taught to believe were put together in such a way that they worked without betraying being good to other people. It was a very strange book, and like I said, that the Sympathy for the Devil is just unpopular as hell. It didn't sell for shit, but it allowed me to ask and answer this question: if there is a God, how can there be a hell? And that is the theme of that book. And then I created a God. I created a version of God that explained hell without making God a torturer.
Without breaking the plot or the...
Right, without making God have to be the bad guy. Because if you are condoning eternal torture, then you are the bad guy.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't know. Child molesters and stuff, that's where I would say, but I don't know. Even I did actually end up having a little bit of sympathy for Barry. So
right. I mean, after that 17 years of torture that he went through while his body was deteriorating around him, and he lost his feet, and he lost his and his skin was all turned inside out, and he was from choices.
Yeah, I would definitely say he paid quite a bit of his debt.
Right. And
then having lived a life that was absolutely meaningless and dying in your 50s, that's
right.
I'd say okay.
Right. And having a father who did things to him because of who he was and what he was.
Yeah. Before he turned, child molester.
Right.
But,
right.
What's the next question?
Okay, so yes, let's back to happier things. Damn, this is a dark episode.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be intense.
Yes, so that's you did. You said that at the beginning. This one can get a little dark. So who are you writing for? And the answer to this, for me, I think the answer to this universally is for some version of yourself. You are writing the book that you need to read. And if you are not doing that, if you are not writing the story that you need to read, then you're not going to be motivated. There is no motivation. I mean, getting paid is a motivation, and being able to stay home with the kids, goddamn, that was a huge motivation. But you have to keep going. And if you are not writing the stories you need to read, you're going to burn out. You're going to hate what you write. And if you are going to spend your very, very short, impermanent life doing this, make it something you love. Make sure that when you are writing first for a version of yourself, for either the kid you needed to be, or wish you could have been, or the adult you want to be, or the adult that in a better world you could have been, and then that part of you will live on, and people who are reading you later will still be able to find what you left in there for them to find. And and going back to Dancing on the Roof Naked, some things in there that you left for them to find that you didn't know you left there. So, and that can be just as important. Seriously, stuff that you like the thing about the children's home. That's, damn. That was big that was such a big part of my life, and I didn't even know it. I'd never written about that before in any way, and I didn't even know I had written about it until I was going through the revision. But that needed to be in there.
Yeah. And that's what you're saying, is that you write the book that you need to read, even if you don't know it at the time, that there are parts of the story that you need to recognize,
Right.
that you need to see.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically it. I mean, I've got a little takeaway there, but do you have anything else you want to say before we do the takeaway?
Just, I mean, I completely agree about who are you writing for is you, because, and I keep that in mind, is like, I'm writing for me, because if I don't love this story, it's very possible nobody will. You can't write for everybody, so you have to write for yourself, because there are people out there like you. Nobody is exactly like you.
Right.
We are all incredibly unique, and I'm not saying we're all special, or we're all,
No,
but
nobody is special. Everyone is unique.
yeah, yeah. And I like that. I like that a lot, because you have to make your life special. You have to find meaning, and you're not going to be special to everybody. You have people that you're special to, and hopefully you are one of the people that you're special to.
Well, yes.
But yeah, everybody's unique. So you write for you. You do you, boo. And people who read your stories, who find you to be a part of them, you'll matter to them, and people will find you, and what you're writing can help them. I just keep going back to my friend escaped the city.
Yeah.
I wish that, and I hate that word, but it's just like, I think that if maybe I could help somebody else out there laugh a little bit on a bad day, or escape a bad part of their life for a little while until things get better, then they won't make that decision. And while I don't believe I have any right to tell somebody they can't take their life, I don't believe that anybody has that right. I believe very strongly that I don't believe in suicide.
Yeah.
I'm against it, but I don't know. I believe in individual freedom and individual choices.
Right.
I just don't think it's the right choice. And if there's anything in my writing, anything in my books ever that can help somebody escape for a little while, then that would be amazing. So maybe I'm kind of writing for that too. And the idea of, it needs to give me hope. It needs to show me that shit can happen for people for years, and they can break free, and they can make a difference, and they can be in control of their world, which I just realized that is a part in, that's something that one of the characters says to another in Leaving Juan de Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
But you have control over your life, and sometimes all you can do is baby steps. Sometimes all you can do is breathe slowly and deeply. But hopefully, maybe some of my writing one day will help somebody through a bad patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a good reason to write. To show yourself something that matters to you, and know that someone else out there is going to find the same thing that matters to you because it matters to them, and that what you say and how you say it can help them. Can give them some joy, can make them laugh, can take something that, they were in the middle of something awful, and maybe show them a different way of dealing with it,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the things about having an author as a writer, somebody who constantly puts part of you in her books, or in the blogs and the articles and in her classes and courses, is that And you've always been very respectful. You've always asked us, like, do I have your permission to share this story? Which I appreciate. But it has really made me an open book. Like, although I have that stupid fear that's slightly superstitious in my brain that says if I talk about this, it's going to happen, or if I write about this, it's going to happen. When it comes to my fears, when it comes to my life, I've always been an open book. Even my one of my best friends, Lacey, it's like, I can't imagine sharing half the shit you do. Like, because of the stuff that I've written on Facebook about our past, about what happened with, me and Mark and Barry and stuff. People are just like, I don't see why you share that. But the thing is, other people go through this shit.
Right.
Other people, and I'm not one to pretend that, okay, so there's this custom in the South where if you hate somebody, you still pretend that you don't, and that you don't, that, oh, we're friends, we like each other. And I see a lot of that in places, and I'm just not like that. I'm like, okay, well, you don't like me, so bugger off.
Right.
It's
Time's
like
too short.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to sit here and do this phony bullshit custom of pretending to like you and talk behind your back, because I might be Southern. I might be 100% from the South, but I was raised by a Yankee mom and I married a Yankee. So I'm a big old mess of bipolar directions.
You are cross-cultural, sweetie.
Yes. Yes. So I don't have that Southern custom of throwing things under the rug, like literally everybody in my family on the Southern side.
Oh, on the northern side too.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah,
yes.
and your
my
family.
mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
my mother's
everybody,
favorite phrase is, "We're going to pretend that didn't happen."
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's and that's on my side, or Barry's side too. It's just this. Oh well, look what he did to the kids. What happened? Nothing. We're not going to tell anybody about anything. The kids just, their mother is a horrible person and took the kids. Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes.
And then he confessed and was convicted. And
but that didn't happen. Everybody still took his side. He still went to all of the family reunions, and everybody was nice to him. Still went to. It's just, I'm not that type of person. I'm not gonna hide in the shadows of all of the stupid shit that has happened, or shit that I've done. There's no point. You live your life and you make mistakes, and if you can own up to them, you learn from them, you become a better person. And nobody can hold something over your head that you did if you admit that you did it.
Right.
I caused a 15-man stakeout. Well, nobody can make me feel guilty about that. I was a stupid kid that played a stupid game, leaving notes all over the damn place, caused a panic, but I'm not ashamed of it.
No,
it's something that I did and I learned from. I was being stupid.
And I have to say, while we were sitting in that interrogation room, me and the two of you sitting on the other side, and I was trying to think of what I could say to you little buggers that would help you see not to do that again. That was the only time I've actually ever been in a police station, where we were in an interrogation room and we were sitting there, and I was trying to explain to my two children, who were 9 and 7 at the time.
No, we had already moved to Fayetteville, so it was in Fayetteville.
So 10 and 8. No,
I was like 11.
11. Yeah. Okay. 9.
Yeah. I was like, I might have been 10, but I think I was 11. But yeah, I've done stupid shit. I've said stupid things to people. I talked, and this is something else too. Like when I was in junior high, I talked shit about a friend, behind her back, and she still tries to make me feel guilty about it. But it's like, dude, I've already apologized like several times.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
Right. I admitted I did
I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I got called out for it right in front of her, and I felt so shitty and felt so bad that I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to do this. So that was my philosophy from 12 on.
Yeah.
And you still get caught up in gossip every now and then when you're a teenager, because you're a hormonal idiot. But for the most part, I never said anything behind somebody's back that I didn't already say to their face.
Right. And that is a good philosophy.
Yeah.
That's, you be one person, you know, don't have two faces, just have one and show that same face to everybody. That's one of the reasons why I swear on the podcast, because that's who I am.
Eventually, I finally got you to break your habit of trying not to curse because,
Yep.
just by cursing.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't want to hide who I am, and people don't like me. I call them out on their bullshit, or you know, people like me originally because I'm so nice and I'm so kind and I have a genuine love for people. And then they expect me to go along with everything they want. And if I put my foot down, if I have convictions, then I'm not their friend anymore. And Tony says it's because I let people get away with too much shit. But it's just, you have to be you and be you on the paper and bring it to your writing and try not to be too afraid.
Yeah.
You know, just be brave on the page. And especially if you're writing. When you're revising, if you need to change things, change things. But when you're writing, let it all hang out.
Right.
Go streaking.
Yes, because that part of you, that deep, human, relatable part of you will show up in your fiction, and someday it is going to matter to somebody. You don't know who, you don't know when, you don't know how. But if
you don't know what you're writing that will matter.
No, and that's just it, is you don't know what somebody else needs at that moment. But something you write will matter to somebody, will change that person's life for the better because you existed. And that is a hell of a motivation for writing fiction and getting up every day. And, you know, it's not something that you don't know when it happens, but you know that it can.
Yeah, and you might never, ever, ever be told. The person might never, ever contact you.
Yeah.
But it's like this thing that I learned with Etsy, and then this thing that I learned with art, is that the people who don't say anything for the longest time can be the ones that you're moving the most. With, you know, like I had somebody, apparently she was following my store for years, and then she finally bought like $200 worth of stuff. And with my art, I've had people follow me that never liked a post, never commented, never hearted anything, and several months in said, oh, okay, so now I'm ready. I've saved up some money and I want you to do this commission. I've been watching you since blah, blah, blah. And I see that, you know, you've gotten even better. So I really trust you to do this. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even know that you saw what I was making.
Right. The 10% rule counts here. You only see at most 10% of anything that you put out there. You only get feedback at most 10% of the people who you touch, whose lives you matter to, will ever say anything. The vast, and I would say, if you're writing fiction, it's probably way smaller than that. It's probably not even 1%. But there is this iceberg, and the people you matter to will mostly be invisible to you. But that doesn't mean you don't matter.
Yeah. And some people just, they might be great readers, but they don't know how to express themselves too. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to tell you how much your book meant. And sometimes people aren't so philosophical. People aren't that philosophical, and they don't know how what you wrote moved them. They just know that it did.
Yeah.
So what is the takeaway?
Okay, so the takeaway is there's a price you have to pay, and part of that price is getting your butt in the chair and learning the craft. But part of that price you have to pay is being willing to be naked on the page, to be willing to show who you really are, what you really think, to be willing to say what matters to you in a fictional form, not shoving it down somebody's throat as this is what you have to believe, but showing your characters and making your characters live through things that show how you would respond if you were them. Part of what you do is there is a payment you get from the process, and it isn't always going to be fan mail. Part of what you get, and the motivation, part of it is this thrill you get from getting it right on the page, from having a story come alive on you, from seeing something as strange as my experience at 9 years old living in Alaska in the children's home metamorphing into this horrifying experience on an alien planet with a guy who is doing terrible things to kids, and then finding the truth behind who some people are and using that in the story. And then finally, it is just this, that you have to find your motivation in spite of the fact that there are no guarantees. There is absolutely no guarantee that you are going to have a million book bestseller, that you are going to become wildly famous, that you are going to be published commercially, that you will have a huge fan base. The only thing that you can guarantee is your own action, your own consistency, and your willingness to sit down there and create beyond what you put into it. Nothing is guaranteed. And all you can do is do your best and put your stuff out there and believe in yourself and your ability to get better. And when you've gotten that, that's it. You have by the process of following your process and doing the work, you have succeeded. And everything that comes after that is gravy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a big point there that you made there at the end is people have to be able to define their success and be clear about it and be realistic about it.
Right.
And I'll put a thing in the show notes about your goal setting workshops, because that's a big thing that helped me define my successes and stuff. So you don't want to look at success as I can pay all of my bills with my writing 100% first go, the million times bestseller
Right,
or anything like
right.
that. You have to break shit down.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing you can do to guarantee that you will have a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
That is not a goal you control. But
Yeah.
I'm going to get my butt in the chair every writing day and get my words. You can own that one.
Yeah. So, okay, that is the episode on what motivates you to write fiction. And thank you very much for listening. I know we got pretty intense there and talked about some darker topics, but again, it's about motivation, and you all have stuff in your lives that motivates you. There might be a few of you that have lived a charmed life, and don't disparage not having had shit happen. Please be grateful for your pretty charmed life. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yes.
You still have issues. So, but yeah, so you can follow us on the socials. It is at AIARWIP on Instagram and Twitter. You can also search the hashtags Alone with Invisible People or Alone in a Room with Invisible People. We are on Facebook at Alone in a Room with Invisible People. We have our website that is alonewithinvisiblepeople.com. And if you want to comment on the topic, just leave us a note or something, go to our website. And if you want to join in the conversation, you would want to head to hollyswritingclasses.com and create a free account and find our forum. The forum is clearly labeled podcast, Alone in a Room with Invisible People. And you can jump in on any of the episodes. You can talk about them. You can express your own issues, express your own motivations. It's a safe group where everything is private.
Ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions. If there's something that we didn't cover in the topic fully, if you have more questions, let us know, because we can always create another mini episode hitting other topics if it's not something easily answered. We love engaging with you, so engage with us. We also have a new Patreon. It was suggested to us by several listeners that they wanted us to create a Patreon instead of just having a couple of simple donation bars. But we have two different things. If you go to alonewithinvisiblepeople.com, on the right hand side where there's all these links and stuff, there is a one-time donation kind of thing where it's the $5, $10, $15 level. You can donate if you want, just to give us. I tried to set up a buy me a coffee, which was the first suggestion, but it doesn't work with PayPal. So I'm most comfortable with PayPal. So that's our version of buy me a coffee. It's just support the podcast if you want. And if you would prefer to do it on a monthly basis, we have 3 tiers. It is $1, $5, and $9. Currently, there are no rewards, but there will be. We are working on the options. I know a lot of people were saying they don't need rewards, but we feel that we would prefer to give them anyway.
One good use of the form would be if you have an idea for a low work, high reward kind of reward, something that would not cost us a bunch of time, but that you would like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Suggest that.
we do plan on eventually having transcripts of every episode. So if that was your idea, don't worry about that. That's already in the works. It's just transcripts cost a lot of money. So we have to get them right so we get the better transcribers.
And we also have to have some money coming in before we can afford to start doing that.
Yes. There was a couple that Holly used for her course, so she paid for those, but that is for a paying course, something that is paying her, and transcription is expensive, and that's at least for a month, so that's a lot of money. But if you have any other ideas as to what kind of rewards you would like as a patron, please let us know, because again, it's something Holly can't spend a whole lot of time on, but I have a little bit of extra time to put into the podcast because it's my passion project. So, but yeah, if you want to become a patron, it's on there. We also started a Redbubble shop. The Redbubble shop, you can look up Airwhip. That's AIARWIP. I still have to work on the images. I have to create some vector images for the shirts, but we have coffee mugs, and I think there's a pillow, there's a couple of journals. It's got both the logo, the simple logo, and then the logo with our faces. If you want something with our faces on it, go for it. But yeah, so any of those ways are ways to support the podcast, but also get yourself some merch if you want. I know Holly really wants a shirt, and I really want a shirt and a coffee mug. I really need a coffee mug. So yeah, I think that's it. Other than we'll see you on the next episode, and we hope that you've enjoyed this one, and definitely comment.
Yes. And figure out what matters to you, because what matters to you is what's going to get your butt in the chair every day.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
You want to write, you love words, you love fiction, but you don't know where to start, or how to middle, or where to finish. I do. I'm Holly Lisle, and I've been doing this professionally since 1991. And I know how I did what I did to go pro, and I'll be happy to show you what I've learned. Start with my free 3-week flash fiction class at hollyswritingclasses.com.